The morning sun peeked through the curtains as Lily Wang's alarm clock spoke the time in its robotic voice. 6:30 a.m. Her hand reached out, finding the clock with the practiced ease of someone who had done this every day for 17 years. Lily had never seen the sun. Born with a rare condition that left her completely blind, her world was one of sounds, smells, and textures. She slid her feet into the slippers always kept in the same spot beside her bed and made her way to the bathroom, counting steps under her breath. Her morning routine never changed. Consistency was her compass in a world without light. As she brushed her teeth, Lily hummed a melody she'd been working on. Music had been her constant companion since she was 4 years old when her grandmother had placed her small hands on the keys of an old upright piano. Music doesn't need eyes, her grandmother had told her. It needs ears and heart, and you have plenty of both. By the time Lily sat down for breakfast, her mom Kate was already pouring coffee, the rich aroma filling their small kitchen. "Big day today," Kate said, placing a plate of toast in front of Lily, guiding her daughter's hand to the edge of the plate. "Ms. Patterson called last night after you went to bed. She's coming over earlier than usual." Lily nodded, butterflies suddenly taking flight in her stomach. Today wasn't just any practice day with her piano teacher. Today was the day she'd find out if she'd been accepted into the master class with Anton Zima, the famous pianist whose recordings she'd listened to countless times. "Do you think I have a chance?" Lily asked, her voice smaller than usual. Kate sat down across from her daughter. "Ms. Patterson wouldn't have submitted your recording if she didn't think you were good enough. You've worked harder than anyone I know." Lily took a bite of toast to hide her doubt. Anton Zima wasn't just any pianist. He was a legend, known as much for his brilliant interpretations as for his tough standards. People called him the Emperor because of how he ruled over the classical music world with his strong opinions about what made music worth listening to. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 a.m. Ms. Patterson was always precisely on time. "I'll get it," Kate said, her chair scraping against the floor as she stood up. Lily heard the front door open, followed by Ms. Patterson's brisk voice and quick footsteps. But there was something different in her teacher's pace today, an excitement that made her steps lighter, quicker. "Lily," Ms. Patterson said, her voice coming from the doorway. "I have news." Something in her tone made Lily's heart skip. She carefully set down her toast. "About the master class?" "You're in," Ms. Patterson announced, her words tumbling out in a rush. "You're the only student selected who isn't already studying at a conservatory." The kitchen erupted in happy sounds. Her mother's excited gasp, Ms. Patterson's unusual laugh, and Lily's own squeal of disbelief. For years she had practiced until her fingers ached, learning piece after piece, pouring everything she couldn't see into what she could hear and create. "When does it start?" Lily asked when the excitement settled enough for questions. "Next Monday," Ms. Patterson replied. "It's a 3-day intensive at the Harris Concert Hall, 20 students total, working directly with Anton Zima himself." Lily's happiness dimmed slightly. "Will he know that I can't see?" A small pause followed. "I included that information with your recording," Ms. Patterson said carefully. "Zima selected you based on your playing, Lily. Your blindness didn't matter. Your talent did." The days passed in a blur of preparation. Lily practiced her chosen pieces until she could play them in her sleep. A Chopin nocturne, a Bach prelude, and a challenging Liszt etude. By Sunday night, her fingers were sore but ready. "Are you nervous?" her mother asked as they prepared for bed. Lily nodded, sitting on the edge of her bed. "What if he treats me differently? What if he thinks I got in because people feel sorry for me?" "Then he'll be wrong," Kate said simply. "And you'll prove it when you play." Monday morning arrived cold and clear. Lily dressed in the outfit she and her mother had chosen. Dark pants and a deep blue sweater that her mom said brought out the blue in her unseeing eyes. Ms. Patterson picked them up, and the drive to Harris Concert Hall passed with nervous chatter and last-minute advice. "Remember, Zima appreciates emotional honesty in playing above everything else," Ms. Patterson said. "Don't try to copy his style. Show him yours." The concert hall smelled of polished wood and something Lily couldn't name, perhaps importance. She held her mother's arm with one hand and her folding cane with the other, as they followed Ms. Patterson through the lobby. "The master class is in the smaller recital hall downstairs," Ms. Patterson explained. 18 students have already arrived. Lily felt the subtle shift in the atmosphere as they entered the room, the momentary pause in conversations, the feeling of being noticed. She had experienced it all her life. "Mom," she whispered, "are they staring?" "Some," Kate admitted quietly, "but only because they're curious. You belong here just as much as they do." A woman with a crisp, professional voice approached them. "You must be Lily Wang. I'm Andrea, Mr. Zima's assistant. Let me show you to your seat. We have a place reserved in the front row." Lily said goodbye to her mother, who had returned for the afternoon session, and followed Andrea's voice, her cane tapping lightly against the floor. "The morning session begins with introductions," Andrea explained. "Then Mr. Zima will discuss his approach to interpretation before working with the first 5 students individually. You're scheduled to play tomorrow morning." Lily nodded, grateful for the information as she settled into her seat. Around her, she could hear the other students chatting, the rustle of sheet music, the nervous tapping of feet. These were serious piano students, many already on track for professional careers. She took a deep breath, reminding herself she had earned her place here. At exactly 10 a.m., the room fell silent. Heavy footsteps entered from the back of the hall, measured and deliberate. Lily didn't need vision to feel the presence that had just entered the room. It was like the air itself had become charged. "Good morning, young musicians." A deep voice with a slight Eastern European accent filled the space. "I am Anton Zima. For the next 3 days I will listen to you play. And perhaps, if you are lucky, I will help you play better." A few nervous laughs met his words, quickly fading into silence. "We will begin with introductions," Zima continued. "Tell me your name, what you will play for me during our time together, and why you believe you deserve my attention." One by one, the students introduced themselves. They came from prestigious music schools, had won competitions, studied with famous teachers. Lily listened carefully, her anxiety growing with each impressive introduction. When her turn came, she sat up straighter. "I'm Lily Wang," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'll be playing Chopin's Nocturne in B-flat minor, Bach's Prelude in C-sharp minor, and Liszt's La Campanella. I deserve your attention because—" She paused, searching for the right words. "Because music speaks truest when it comes from a place of genuine feeling, and that's where all my playing comes from." A heavy silence followed her words. She could feel attention on her, the weight of unseen gazes. "The blind girl?" Zima's voice finally broke the silence. Closer now. He must have walked toward the front while the introductions were happening. "Yes, I remember your application. Tell me, how do you read music?" "I learn by ear, sir," Lily replied. "My teacher plays each piece for me section by section, and I memorize it. For pieces I discover myself, I use recordings." Was his only response, followed by the sound of footsteps moving away. The morning continued with Zima's lecture on interpretation. His voice filled the hall as he spoke of music as a language of emotion, of the responsibility pianists had to the composers whose work they performed. Lily took mental notes, absorbing everything. When the first student was called to play, a boy named Ren who had introduced himself as a student from a famous conservatory, Lily listened intently. His playing was technically flawless, a Mozart sonata executed with precision. When he finished, Zima was silent for several long seconds. "Your fingers do not miss a note," he finally said. "But your heart misses the point entirely. You play Mozart like you are solving a math problem. Again, but this time, imagine you are telling a story to someone you love." The second and third students received similar critiques, technically sound but emotionally lacking. The fourth student, a girl named Abby, played a Debussy piece with such feeling that even Lily found herself leaning forward in her seat. "Better," was all Zima said when Abby finished. "You at least understand that music must breathe." As the morning session ended, Lily felt both intimidated and strangely hopeful. Zima was demanding, yes, but what he demanded, emotional truth in playing, was what Lily had always believed in. As students shuffled out for the lunch break, someone bumped into Lily's chair. "Sorry," a girl's voice said. "Hey, you're Lily, right?" "I'm Abby. Want to grab lunch together?" Lily smiled, nodding. Perhaps this week would bring more than just musical lessons. "I'd like that," she said, standing and unfolding her cane. "Just let me know which way to go." What Lily couldn't see was Anton Zima watching her from across the room, his expression unreadable as he observed her confident movements through a world of darkness. What she couldn't know was that her greatest challenge and her greatest triumph was still to come. Lunch with Abby turned out to be exactly what Lily needed to calm her nerves. They found a small cafe near the concert hall where Abby described the menu options in detail without making Lily feel helpless. "So, you've never seen anything? Not even Shapes or Light?" Abby asked between bites of her sandwich. Lily shook her head. "Born this way. Can't miss what you've never had, right? Is that why your playing is so... I don't know how to describe it. It's like you're not just playing the notes but feeling them somehow." Lily smiled, warmed by the observation. Most people either focused too much on her blindness or tried too hard to ignore it. Abby seemed to understand that it was simply part of who she was. "Music makes more sense to me than most things," Lily admitted. "When I play, I don't feel blind. I just feel complete." Their conversation flowed easily as Abby shared stories about the conservatory where she studied and her plans to audition for major symphony orchestras. Unlike some of the other students, Abby didn't treat the master class like a competition. "Zima seems tough," Lily said as they walked back to the concert hall, her hand lightly resting on Abby's arm for guidance. "He's brilliant but brutal," Abby replied. "My teacher studied with him years ago. Said he made half the class cry, but they all became better musicians." "Great," Lily laughed nervously. "Can't wait for my turn tomorrow." The afternoon session focused on 5 more students. Lily listened carefully to each performance, noting how Zima's criticism became more pointed as the day wore on. With one student, he stopped the performance after just 30 seconds. "Why do you play piano?" he demanded. The student stammered something about loving music. "Then why do you murder it?" Zima's voice was cold. "Again. And this time play as if someone might actually want to listen." When the final student of the day finished playing, Zima stood in silence for several long moments. "Today I have heard 10 performances," he finally said. "Some were technically proficient. Others showed glimpses of understanding. None were memorable. Tomorrow perhaps someone will surprise me. You are dismissed." As chairs scraped and students gathered their things, Lily heard heavy footsteps approaching her seat. "Miss Wang." Lily's heart jumped at Zima's voice so close to her. "Yes, Mr. Zima? You will play first tomorrow morning. Be prepared." His voice gave away nothing of what he might be thinking. "I will be, sir," Lily replied, gripping her cane a little tighter. "We shall see." The footsteps moved away, leaving Lily with a knot in her stomach. Her mother was waiting in the lobby, and on the drive home, Lily recounted everything. The other students' performances, Zima's harsh critiques, her conversation with Abby. "He wants me to play first thing tomorrow," she finished, leaning her head against the car window. "That's good," her mother said. "You'll set the standard for the day." Lily wasn't so sure. "Or I'll be the first one he tears apart." That evening, instead of practicing, Lily sat at the piano and simply let her fingers wander over the keys, playing snippets of melodies that felt right in the moment. Her mother found her there an hour later. "Not practicing your pieces?" Kate asked, sitting beside her daughter on the bench. "I know them inside out," Lily said, "but I'm starting to think that's not what Zima is looking for. He keeps talking about emotional truth, about making music breathe." Kate was quiet for a moment. "Play me the Chopin the way you'd play it for him tomorrow." Lily positioned her hands and began the nocturne. The familiar notes flowed from her fingers with technical precision, each phrase carefully shaped as Miss Patterson had taught her. When she finished, her mother asked, "Now play it for me." "Not for Zima, not for your teacher. Just for me, the way you feel it." Lily took a deep breath and began again. This time she let herself get lost in the music, lingering on the notes that moved her, allowing the piece to unfold at its own pace. When the final notes faded, she realized her cheeks were wet. "That's what he's looking for," Kate said softly. "That's what makes your playing special, Lily. You don't just play the notes, you live them." That night, Lily lay awake long past her usual bedtime, her mind racing with thoughts about the next day. What if Zima dismissed her because of her blindness? What if he thought her incapable of true artistry because she couldn't see? Or worse, what if he pitied her? She must have eventually fallen asleep, because the next thing she knew, her alarm clock was announcing 6:30 a.m. The morning routine helped steady her nerves. By the time Ms. Patterson picked them up, Lily had found a fragile calm. "Remember what we've worked on," Ms. Patterson said as they entered the concert hall. "But more importantly, remember who you are when you play." The recital hall was buzzing with nervous energy when they arrived. Lily could hear students whispering, pages turning, someone running scales on a silent keyboard. Good morning, musicians. Zima's voice cut through the chatter, immediately silencing the room. Yesterday was disappointing. Today we begin with Miss Wang. A hand touched Lily's shoulder, Andrea, Zima's assistant. This way to the piano, she murmured, guiding Lily forward. Lily counted the steps in her head, orienting herself as they walked to the front of the room. When her fingers found the edge of the piano, she traced her way to the bench and sat down, adjusting her position with practiced movements. The room was completely silent now. She could feel everyone watching her, Zima, the other students, her mother, and teacher somewhere in the back. Taking a deep breath, Lily placed her hands on the keys. Before you begin, Zima's voice came from nearby. Tell me, Miss Wang, what do you see when you play Chopin? The question hung in the air. Lily's hands hovered above the keys as a flush crept up her neck. I don't see anything, Mr. Zima. She answered quietly. I was born blind. Precisely my point, he replied, voice sharp as a blade. How can you interpret what Chopin intended if you cannot see the world as he saw it? Music is not just sound. It is color, light, the visual poetry of nature that inspired these compositions. The silence in the room grew heavier. Lily's heart hammered in her chest. With respect, sir, she said, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. I may not see colors or light the way others do, but I feel music differently too. Maybe that's its own kind of vision. Someone in the audience, Abby perhaps, made a small sound of support. Interesting theory, Zima said, his tone making it clear he found it anything but. Let us test it. Begin. Lily took a moment to center herself, remembering her mother's words from the night before. Then she began to play the Chopin Nocturne. She poured everything into the music, all her anxiety about being judged, her lifelong determination to be seen for her talent rather than her disability, her love for the piano that had been her window to a world of beauty she couldn't see but could deeply feel. Her fingers moved with confidence, shaping each phrase as if she were speaking directly to every person in the room. When the final notes faded, Lily kept her hands on the keys, afraid to break the spell. The silence stretched for several seconds before Zima spoke. Technically, there were imperfections, he began, his voice unreadable. The rubato in the middle section was excessive. The left hand was occasionally too prominent. Lily's heart sank. And yet, he continued after a pause, there was something authentic in your interpretation. You play as if the music lives inside you. It is unusual. She wasn't sure if that was a compliment. The Bach next, he instructed. Lily played her prelude, focusing on the clarity of the counterpoint, letting the mathematical precision of Bach's writing shine through her fingers. This time when she finished, Zima was quicker to respond. Better. You understand Bach's architecture. Now the list. La Campanella was the most technically demanding piece in her repertoire, a showpiece of rapid repeated notes, huge leaps and complex figurations that stretched even the most talented pianists. Lily had practiced it endlessly, but now her nerves threatened her control. I'm waiting, Miss Wang, Zima prompted when she hesitated. Lily took a deep breath and began. The opening came easily enough, but as she reached the first major technical challenge, a series of rapid jumps between registers, her left hand missed its target. She recovered quickly, but knew Zima had noticed. Pressing on, she focused on the music rather than the mechanics, letting the bell-like qualities that gave the piece its name ring through her playing. By the time she reached the final cascading passages, Lily had forgotten her nervousness, forgotten Zima, forgotten everything except the joy of bringing this music to life. The final triumphant chords resonated through the hall and then silence. For several long moments, no one spoke. Then she heard Zima's footsteps approaching the piano. Your technique is flawed, he said, standing beside her now. The missed notes in the development section, the inconsistent tempo in the coda, these are serious issues. Lily nodded, accepting the criticism. And yet, he continued, his voice softer now, there is something in your playing that cannot be taught, a connection to the emotional core of the music that many with perfect technique never achieve. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried across the entire hall. This, students, is what I meant yesterday about emotional honesty. Despite her technical limitations, or perhaps because she does not hide behind technical perfection, Miss Wang shows us the heart of the music. It is a valuable lesson. As Lily stood to return to her seat, she felt a mixture of pride and confusion. It hadn't been praise exactly, but Zima had used her playing to make a point to the others. Still, something in his tone suggested he didn't quite know what to make of her. "Thank you, Mr. Zima," she said politely. "Don't thank me yet, Miss Wang," he replied. "We have much work to do if you are to overcome your limitations." The way he said limitations made it clear he wasn't just talking about her playing. As Abby guided her back to her seat, she whispered, "You were amazing. And you've got him confused. That's a good thing. He only gets interested when he's confused." Lily smiled, but inside she wondered, had she impressed Anton Zima? Or had she merely become an interesting curiosity, the blind girl who could play with feeling? She would find out soon enough, because the day was far from over, and tomorrow would bring the greatest challenge yet. The afternoon session passed in a blur of performances and Zima's increasingly harsh critiques. After Lily's playing that morning, it seemed the bar had been raised. Students who might have impressed him yesterday were now met with impatient sighs and cutting remarks. "You play like you are reading a shopping list," he told one boy whose Beethoven sonata lacked passion. "Perhaps you should consider a career in mathematics instead of music," he suggested to a girl who played with technical precision, but little emotion. During the break, Lily sat with Abby in the hallway, sipping water and listening to the buzz of conversations around them. "He's been harder on everyone since your performance," Abby whispered. "I play tomorrow, and honestly, I'm terrified now." "Your playing this morning was beautiful," Lily reassured her. "He'll hear that," Abby laughed nervously. "I don't know if that matters anymore. Did you hear what he said to Patrick? If you cannot make me feel something, why should I bother listening?" The poor guy looked like he wanted to disappear. Before Lily could respond, a hush fell over the hallway. She could sense a change in the atmosphere, the kind that only happened when Zima entered a room. "Miss Wang." His voice came from directly in front of her, causing Lily to straighten in her seat. "A word, please." "Of course, Mr. Zima," she replied, standing up with her cane. "Leave that," he said, referring to her cane. "I will guide you." Surprised, Lily hesitated before folding her cane and tucking it into her pocket. She felt Zima's arm, surprisingly solid and strong for a pianist in his 60s, as he offered it to her. "This way," he said, leading her down the hallway. His stride was confident and measured, giving Lily time to match his pace. They entered what felt like a smaller room. An office, perhaps, based on the change in acoustics. Zima guided her to a chair before taking his own seat across from her. The smell of coffee and old books filled the space. "I have been thinking about your playing," he began without preamble. "There is raw talent there, unquestionably, but also significant limitations." Lily nodded, steeling herself for criticism. "I know my technique needs work." "I'm not speaking of technique," Zima interrupted. "Technique can be improved with practice. I am referring to your condition." The word hung in the air between them. Lily's throat tightened. "My blindness," she said, stating it plainly. "Yes, music is not merely sound, Miss Wang. It is a complete sensory experience. The greatest composers drew inspiration from visual beauty, sunsets, landscapes, the human form in motion. Debussy's Clair de Lune captures moonlight on water. Vivaldi's Four Seasons paints pictures of changing nature. How can you fully interpret what you cannot comprehend?" Lily had faced versions of this question throughout her life, but never so directly. Never from someone whose opinion mattered so much to her future. "With respect, Mr. Zima," she began carefully, "I experience music differently, not less. When I play Debussy, I feel the gentle rhythm of water, the coolness of night air. I may not see moonlight, but I know how it changes a room by the way voices soften when people describe it. I know spring by its smells, its warmth, the chorus of birds that weren't there in winter." She paused, gathering courage before continuing. "Perhaps my interpretation isn't what Debussy or Vivaldi imagined. But isn't that true for every musician? We all bring our unique perspective to the music. Mine is just more unique than most." The silence that followed seemed to stretch for ages. Lily fought the urge to fill it, to apologize for speaking so boldly to the great Anton Zima. "An interesting perspective," he finally said, his tone unreadable. "But not everyone would agree." "The final day of our master class concludes with a recital. 6 students will be selected to perform. The audience will include critics, conservatory directors, and patrons of the arts." Lily's heart began to race. This was the opportunity everyone had been hoping for, a chance to be noticed by people who could launch careers. I had planned to include you, Zima continued. Your playing this morning, despite its flaws, was memorable. However, I am not convinced it would be in your best interest. Why not? Lily asked, unable to keep the edge from her voice. The music world can be cruel, Miss Wang. Critics may focus more on your blindness than your artistry. Audiences may come out of curiosity rather than appreciation. Is that what you want for your career? To be known as the blind pianist rather than simply the pianist? The question hit Lily like a physical blow. It was her deepest fear put into words by someone whose opinion carried weight. I want to be known for my music, she said quietly. But my blindness is part of who I am. I can't separate the two, and I don't think I should have to. Noble sentiments, Zima replied, his chair creaking as he leaned back. But sentiments do not build careers. I have seen many talented musicians fail because the world was not ready for them. So you're not including me in the recital, Lily stated, trying to keep the disappointment from her voice. I did not say that. Zima's tone shifted slightly. I am giving you a choice. Participate in the recital and accept the consequences, good or bad. Or withdraw and continue your studies privately until you are more prepared for public scrutiny. Lily's mind raced. Was this a test? A genuine concern for her future? Or was Zima simply uncomfortable with the idea of presenting a blind pianist to his colleagues? May I think about it? She asked. Until tomorrow morning, Zima agreed. Now shall we return to the hall? The afternoon session resumes in 5 minutes. As they walked back, Lily's thoughts tumbled over each other. Part of her wanted to prove Zima wrong, to show him and everyone else that her blindness didn't limit her musicality. Another part feared he might be right, that no matter how well she played, she would always be seen as a novelty first, an artist second. Abby was waiting anxiously when they returned. What happened? She whispered as Lily took her seat. I'll tell you later, Lily promised as Zima called the next student to perform. That evening, instead of going straight home, Lily asked her mother to take her to the community center where she had first learned to play. The ancient grand piano there, donated years ago by a local family, had been her constant companion. Its slightly worn keys and warmer tone felt like an old friend, compared to the pristine concert grand at the master class. Do you want to talk about today? Her mother asked as Lily sat at the familiar keyboard. He offered me a spot in the final recital, Lily said, running her fingers lightly over the keys without pressing them. But he also suggested I might want to withdraw. Because you're blind. It wasn't a question. Lily nodded. He thinks critics and audiences won't see past it, that I'll always be the blind pianist instead of just a pianist. Her mother was quiet for a moment. He might be right, you know. People can be shallow. I know, Lily agreed. But if I withdraw, what message does that send? That I'm ashamed? That I agree my blindness makes me less capable? It's not about what's true, her mother said gently. It's about what you can handle. The music world is competitive enough without adding extra challenges. Lily's hands found a chord, then another, the beginning of an improvisation that had no sheet music, no composer but herself. As she played, the music took shape, questioning at first, then increasingly determined. When I play, she said over the music her fingers were creating, I don't feel blind. I don't feel limited. I just feel free. If I give that up because I'm afraid of how others might see me, I'll never forgive myself. The improvisation grew stronger, more resolved. So you'll do the recital, her mother concluded. I'll do the recital, Lily confirmed, the music building under her hands, but not playing what everyone expects. Not Chopin or Bach or Liszt. What then? Lily smiled, her fingers finding new patterns, new harmonies. Something of my own, something that comes from my experience of the world. If I'm going to be judged, it should be on my terms. Her mother was silent, listening to the music taking shape, music that sounded like nothing Lily had played before, yet somehow contained echoes of the classical traditions she had studied for years. Zima might not allow it, her mother finally said. It's supposed to be a classical recital. Then I'll have my answer about whether he truly values musical honesty or just conformity to tradition, Lily replied, still playing. Either way, I'll know where I stand. For the next few hours, Lily worked at the piano, recording snippets on her phone when she found something that felt right. The piece began to take shape, a composition that spoke of darkness and light as she understood them, of finding beauty through senses beyond sight, of struggle and transcendence. When she finally stopped, her fingers aching but her mind clear, she knew what she had to do. Tomorrow she would tell Zima her decision, not just to participate in the recital, but to do so on her own terms. What she couldn't know was that her decision would set in motion events that would change not only her life but the lives of everyone who heard her play, including the great Anton Zima himself. Lily arrived early the next morning, her mother by her side and a folder containing her handwritten composition in her bag. Ms. Patterson had helped her transcribe the piece she'd created the night before, working late into the evening to capture what Lily had improvised. "Are you sure about this?" her mother asked as they waited in the lobby. "It's not too late to change your mind." Lily adjusted her dark blue cardigan, the one her mother had told her brought out the color in her unseeing eyes. "I'm sure," she said, though her racing heart suggested otherwise. "I need to do this." The lobby was quieter than usual. Most students were already in the recital hall, eager to hear who would be selected for the evening performance. Lily heard Abby's familiar footsteps approaching before her friend spoke. "There you are," Abby said, slightly out of breath. "I was afraid you weren't coming. Everyone's talking about who'll make the cut for tonight." "Is Zima here yet?" Lily asked. "Just arrived." "He's in his office. Looks serious, but then again, when doesn't he?" Abby paused. "What's that folder? More sheet music?" "Something like that," Lily replied. "I need to speak with him before the session starts." "Can you take me to his office?" Abby guided her through the hallways past groups of whispering students. Outside Zima's office, Lily asked her friend to wait. "Whatever happens," she said, squeezing Abby's hand, "thank you for everything." "You're being very mysterious," Abby replied, "but good luck. I'll save you a seat." Lily knocked on the door, the sound unnaturally loud in the quiet hallway. "Enter," came Zima's voice from within. Lily opened the door, using her cane to navigate the unfamiliar space. "Miss Wang," Zima acknowledged her. "I assume you've made your decision." "I have," Lily replied, standing straight. "I'd like to participate in the recital tonight." "Very well." His tone was neutral. "You'll play the Chopin. It was your strongest piece." Lily took a deep breath. "With respect, Mr. Zima, I'd like to play something else." "The Bach, then?" "It was competent, though lacking the emotional depth of your Chopin." "Neither," Lily said, her fingers tightening around her cane. "I'd like to play my own composition." The silence that followed was so complete Lily could hear the tick of a clock somewhere in the room. "Your own composition," Zima repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. "This is a classical piano master class, Miss Wang, not a showcase for amateur compositions." Lily had anticipated this reaction. She removed the folder from her bag and held it out. "This is the sheet music," she explained. "It's a piece I composed last night. It draws on classical traditions but expresses something personal, my experience of music as someone who cannot see." Zima didn't take the folder. "And you believe this personal expression is suitable for a recital attended by some of the most respected critics and conservatory directors in the country?" "I believe it answers the challenge you set for all of us," Lily replied, her voice steady despite her nerves. "You've been asking us to play with emotional honesty. This is the most honest music I can offer." Another long silence followed. Lily could almost feel Zima's eyes studying her. "You realize what you're risking," he finally said. "If your composition is perceived as amateurish or sentimental, it could damage your prospects more than not performing at all." "I understand," Lily nodded. "But I've spent my life being defined by what others think I can or can't do. At some point I have to define myself." The folder was finally taken from her hands. She heard pages turning as Zima examined her composition. "This is handwritten," he observed. "Not by you, obviously." "My teacher helped me transcribe it last night," Lily explained. "The notes are exactly as I played them." More pages turned. Then, unexpectedly, Lily heard a few notes played on what must be a small piano in the corner of the office. Zima was sight-reading passages of her composition. "Interesting harmonies," he muttered almost to himself. "Unconventional structure, but not without logic." The playing stopped. Lily waited, hardly daring to breathe. "It would be unprecedented," Zima said eventually. "In 20 years of conducting these master classes, I have never allowed a student to perform their own work at the final recital." Lily's heart sank, but she kept her expression neutral. I understand, however, Zima continued, cutting her off. I have also never encountered a student quite like you, Miss Wang. He fell silent again, and Lily sensed he was making a decision that went against his better judgment. You may play your composition tonight, he finally declared. Not because I believe it is equal to the works of the masters, but because I am curious to see whether your emotional honesty translates to your own music as it does to Chopin's. Relief flooded through Lily. Thank you, Mr. Zima. Don't thank me yet, he replied dryly. I've given you enough rope to either climb to great heights or hang yourself artistically. Which it will be, remains to be seen. The morning session began with Zima's announcement of the 6 students selected for the evening recital. Lily's name came last, with no mention of her unusual program choice. As the other students played their final pieces for Zima's critique, Lily sat quietly, her mind focused on the music she would perform that night. During lunch, Abby pulled her aside. What happened with Zima? Everyone's wondering why you're the only one who didn't have to play this morning. I'll be playing something different tonight, Lily explained, keeping her voice low. My own piece, Abby gasped. He's letting you play your own composition? How did you convince him? Lily smiled. I'm not sure I did. I think he's allowing it because he expects me to fail. Or because he sees something in you that's different, Abby suggested. Either way, it's amazing. No one gets to premiere their own work at Zima's recitals. It's unheard of. The afternoon passed in a blur of rehearsals. While the other selected students practiced their pieces on the main stage, Lily worked in a small practice room, refining her composition, committing every note to memory. Ms. Patterson sat with her, offering suggestions on dynamics and phrasing, but mostly listening in supportive silence. It's beautiful, Lily, she said when they finally took a break. Truly original but accessible. It speaks from your heart. But is it good enough? Lily asked, voicing the doubt that had been growing all day. These people will be expecting Bach and Beethoven, not music from someone like me. Someone like you? Ms. Patterson's voice sharpened. You mean someone talented and brave enough to write her own truth instead of just interpreting others? Yes, I think that's exactly what they need to hear. As evening approached, the concert hall began to fill. Lily could hear the growing murmur of voices as she waited backstage with the other performers. Her simple black dress felt suddenly inadequate among what Abby had described as the fancy concert clothes of the other students. Don't worry about how you look, Abby whispered, seeming to read her thoughts. Once you start playing, no one will care about anything else. The recital began at exactly 7:30. From backstage, Lily listened as each student performed their carefully prepared classical pieces. The audience responded with appropriate applause, occasionally punctuated by soft murmurs of appreciation for particularly beautiful passages. Lily was scheduled to perform last, a position she understood could be either an honor or a setup for anticlimax. As the 5th student completed their performance of a Rachmaninoff prelude, Lily felt a presence beside her. It is almost time, Miss Wang, Zima said quietly. Are you prepared? Yes, Lily replied, though her mouth had gone dry. The program notes simply list your piece as original composition by Lily Wang, he informed her. I thought it best not to provide more details that might create expectations. Lily nodded her understanding. Zima was protecting both her and himself. If her performance failed to impress, it would be a footnote rather than a featured experiment. One last thing, Zima added, his voice lower now. Whatever happens tonight, remember that true artists are not defined by a single performance, but by their lifelong conversation with music. Do you understand? Surprised by this almost gentle advice, Lily nodded. I understand. Good. Then it is time. Zima himself led her onto the stage, guiding her to the piano as the audience applauded politely. She could sense their curiosity as he announced, Our final performer this evening is Lily Wang, playing her own original composition. A murmur rippled through the audience. Surprise, perhaps skepticism. Lily took her seat at the piano, adjusting her position with practiced precision. Her fingers found their starting position on the keys as she took a deep breath. In that moment of silence before the first note, Lily thought of everyone who had helped her reach this point. Her mother who believed in her dreams, Ms. Patterson, who nurtured her talent, Abby, who offered friendship without pity, even Zima, whose challenge had pushed her to this moment of truth. Then she began to play and everything else fell away. The composition started softly with a simple melody that evoked questions, searching. It built gradually, incorporating elements that reflected her life, echoes of classical pieces she'd studied, hints of the folk songs her grandmother had sung, moments of struggle represented by dissonant passages that resolved into unexpected harmony. As she played, Lily felt something she had never experienced before, a perfect unity between herself, the music, and the audience. Though she couldn't see them, she could feel their attention, their gradual shift from polite interest to genuine engagement. The final section of her piece expressed what she had been trying to tell Zima all along, that there were many ways to experience beauty, that music could transcend the boundaries of the senses. The closing notes weren't triumphant but peaceful, accepting. A musical statement that her blindness wasn't something to overcome but simply a different lens through which to view the world. As the last note faded, Lily kept her hands on the keys, afraid to break the spell. For one terrible moment there was complete silence. Then somewhere in the back of the hall a single person began to applaud. Others joined, the applause building until it filled the concert hall with a sound more powerful than anything Lily had heard before. She stood, turning toward the audience with a small bow as her mother had taught her. The applause continued, growing even louder. Someone shouted, "Brava!" Then another voice joined, and another. As Lily stood on stage, accepting this unexpected response, she had no way of knowing that among those standing in applause was Anton Zima himself, his expression a complex mixture of surprise, respect, and the rarest of all his emotional displays, genuine wonder. Lily stood in the wings after her performance, her heart still racing as Abby hugged her tightly. "That was incredible," Abby whispered. "I've never heard anything like it. The audience is still talking about it." Lily could hear the continued buzz from the concert hall even as Zima took the stage for his closing remarks. She was still trying to process what had just happened, the complete silence after her final note, followed by that overwhelming applause. "Did everyone really stand up?" she asked, still not quite believing Abby's breathless description. "Everyone," Abby confirmed. "Even the critics in the front row. And Zima, Lily, I've never seen him look like that. Like you'd shown him something he didn't know existed." Before Lily could respond, she heard approaching footsteps, her mother and Ms. Patterson coming to find her backstage. "Lily." Her mother's voice was thick with emotion as she embraced her daughter. "I'm so proud of you. So proud." Ms. Patterson was more composed, but Lily could hear the smile in her voice. "You've done something remarkable tonight, Lily. Not just the performance, which was beautiful, but the courage to play your own piece." As they spoke, the sound of applause rose again from the concert hall, signaling the end of the recital. Soon the backstage area filled with students, parents, and audience members making their way to the reception in the lobby. "Come on," Abby said, taking Lily's arm. "Everyone's going to want to meet you." The lobby was packed with people, their conversations creating a wall of sound that was almost overwhelming after the focused intensity of performance. As Lily moved through the crowd with Abby guiding her, unfamiliar voices stopped them every few steps. "Extraordinary performance. Where did you study composition? Have you recorded any of your work?" Lily answered as best she could, surprised and a little overwhelmed by the attention. She had expected polite interest at best, dismissal at worst. Instead, people seemed genuinely moved by her music. "There's someone else who wants to speak with you," Abby said, guiding her through the crowd, over by the refreshment table. As they approached, Lily recognized the voice of Andrea, Zima's assistant. "Miss Wang," Andrea greeted her. "Mr. Zima would like to see you in his office. Now, if possible." A hush fell over the small group around Lily. "Is something wrong?" Ms. Patterson asked, her protective tone evident. "Not at all," Andrea assured them. "He's speaking with each performer individually. Miss Wang is simply the last on his list." Lily nodded, trying to hide her nervousness. Despite the audience's reaction, she still didn't know what Zima truly thought of her performance. "I'll come with you," her mother offered. "No, Mom," Lily said gently. "I need to do this on my own." With Andrea guiding her, Lily made her way back through the building to Zima's office. The sounds of the reception faded behind them, replaced by the quiet echo of their footsteps in the empty hallway. He was impressed, Andrea said unexpectedly as they walked. I've worked with Mr. Zima for 8 years, and I've never seen him react that way to a student performance. Before Lily could ask what she meant, they arrived at the office door. Andrea knocked, then opened it. Miss Wang is here, sir. Thank you, Andrea. That will be all for tonight. As Andrea's footsteps retreated down the hall, Lily stood in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. Come in, Miss Wang, Zima said, and close the door behind you. Lily did as instructed, using her cane to navigate to the chair she remembered from their previous conversation. For a long moment, Zima didn't speak. Lily could hear him moving around the room, papers shuffling, the clink of what might be a glass being set down. I have been teaching for 43 years, he finally began. In that time I have worked with thousands of pianists. Some went on to significant careers. Others disappeared into obscurity. Do you know what separates the two groups? It wasn't the beginning Lily had expected. Talent? She ventured. Talent is common, Zima dismissed. The world is full of talented pianists who play notes perfectly but say nothing worth hearing. No, what separates them is voice, a musical perspective that is uniquely their own. He paused, and Lily heard the creak of his chair as he sat down. Tonight, you showed more of that elusive quality than students with twice your training and technical ability. Your composition was unexpected. Thank you, Lily said softly, still not sure where this was leading. I am not finished, Zima continued. Your technique remains flawed. Your understanding of classical structure is intuitive rather than educated. There are significant gaps in your training that would need to be addressed. Lily nodded, accepting the critique. It was all true. And yet, Zima's voice shifted slightly. There were moments in your piece that moved me. That made me reconsider some long-held beliefs about the nature of musical interpretation and experience. Lily sat perfectly still, hardly daring to breathe. I received a call just now from Thomas Chen, the director of the Westridge Conservatory. He was in the audience tonight. He has expressed interest in offering you a place in their program for next fall. Lily's heart leapt. Westridge was one of the most prestigious music schools in the country, a place she had dreamed of but never thought possible. However, Zima continued, I have suggested an alternative path. Alternative? Lily echoed, her excitement giving way to confusion. Yes. I believe you would benefit more from individual instruction than from a traditional conservatory program, at least initially. Your gifts and your challenges are unique. They require a specialized approach. Zima paused again. Lily could hear him tapping his fingers lightly on his desk, a pianist's habit. I have offered to take you on as a private student, Miss Wang, 1 day per week, here at the hall. We would focus first on strengthening your technical foundation, then on developing your compositional voice. Lily couldn't believe what she was hearing. You want to teach me? Personally. It is not an offer I make lightly, Zima replied, his tone serious. Nor would it be easy. I would demand more of you than any teacher has before. There would be days you would leave our sessions questioning your decision, perhaps even disliking me intensely. A smile touched Lily's lips at his blunt honesty. I already questioned my decision to come to this masterclass, Mr. Zima. Several times. Something like a chuckle escaped the stern teacher. Yes, I imagine you did. Why? Lily asked the question that was burning in her mind. Yesterday you questioned whether I could ever fully interpret music because I can't see. What changed? Zima was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried an unusual quality, something almost like humility. In my life, I have been proven wrong very rarely. Miss Wang, last night as I reviewed your composition, I found myself curious rather than skeptical. And tonight when you played, he stopped, seeming to search for the right words. You showed me a perspective on music I had not considered, one that challenges much of what I believed about the relationship between the senses and artistic interpretation. He cleared his throat. In short, you have something to teach me as well. That is why I wish to work with you. Lily was speechless. Of all the possible outcomes of this evening, this was one she had never imagined. You need not decide immediately, Zima added. Discuss it with your mother and your current teacher. The offer of Westridge remains open as well. I don't need to discuss it, Lily said, her decision already made. I would be honored to study with you, Mr. Zima. Very well, he replied, and she could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "We begin next Friday, 9 a.m. sharp. I suggest you rest your hands until then. You have much work ahead." As Lily made her way back to the lobby where her mother and friends waited, she felt as though she were walking on air. The path ahead would be challenging. Zima's reputation for demanding excellence was well earned, but for the first time, she felt like her blindness might truly be seen as a different perspective rather than a limitation. The reception was winding down when she returned, but her small group of supporters was waiting anxiously. "What happened?" her mother asked immediately. "You were gone so long." Lily took a deep breath, still processing the conversation herself. "Mr. Zima has offered to teach me privately," she said, hearing the gasps of surprise from Abby and Ms. Patterson. "Once a week, starting next Friday." "Zima doesn't take private students," Abby said in disbelief. "He hasn't for years." "He said my playing showed him a new perspective," Lily explained, still amazed by his words. "That I have something to teach him, too." Ms. Patterson's hand touched her shoulder. "I always knew your playing was special, Lily. Now the world knows it, too." 6 months later, Lily sat at the grand piano in the main concert hall, her fingers dancing through a new composition, one that combined her unique perspective with the technical precision Zima had been relentlessly developing in their weekly sessions. "Better," Zima said when she finished, offering the rare word of praise that had become slightly less rare in recent months. "The middle section still needs work, but the structure is strong." Lily nodded, making mental notes of the passages to refine. Their working relationship had evolved into something neither of them could have predicted, demanding but respectful, with moments of surprising connection over their shared love of music. "The spring showcase is in 3 weeks," Zima reminded her. "This piece will be ready." It would be her first public performance since that fateful night at the masterclass recital. This time, she would be performing alongside advanced conservatory students and even a few professional musicians, a testament to how far she had come under Zima's tutelage. "It will be ready," Lily agreed confidently. As she packed up her things after the lesson, Zima cleared his throat. "I received a call yesterday from the Madison Symphony. They're planning a special concert featuring works by emerging composers. They've requested your piece from the masterclass recital." Lily's hands stilled. "My piece? For a professional orchestra?" "With some orchestration, yes. I took the liberty of recommending a colleague who could help with that process if you're interested." "Yes," Lily breathed, hardly able to believe what she was hearing. "Yes, I'm definitely interested." As she left the hall that day, Kane tapping confidently ahead of her, Lily thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a girl who played piano because it was the one place she didn't feel blind, to a composer whose unique perspective was now valued precisely because it was different. The world hadn't changed its expectations overnight. There were still people who saw her blindness before they heard her music. But Zima had opened a door, and through it Lily had found a path uniquely her own. And as she stepped out into the spring sunshine, Lily Wang knew that this was just the beginning of her story.